What's your question, Deputy?
Minister, could I ask you your status of your proposal to provide sectoral pay scales for those working in the community childcare settings? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, to continue from the last one, childcare workers play a critical role in delivering high-quality childcare services, and they deserve to be recognized, valued, and respected for this. And my department acknowledges that pay and conditions are major issues facing the sector and can lead to difficulties in recruiting and retaining staff. My department is somewhat constrained in what it can do in this regard, as it is not an employer of childcare workers. However, it is, of course, a major funder of the childcare sector, and it is important to note that the stakeholders, they are the most important stakeholders in putting agreed paid structures in place in any sector, are recognized employers and employee groups. My department is aware that trade unions are active in seeking to achieve a critical mass of representation on the employee side, and I welcome this move. My department would also be supportive of any move on the employer side to establish a recognized representative body. In terms of improving pay and conditions, I've suggested that the sector might apply to the Labour Court for a sectoral employment order, asking the court to make a recommendation in relation to pay for the whole early years sector. Under an SEO process, organizations substantially representative of employers and employees come together to agree a way forward, and submissions are sought from key stakeholders. While my department would have no direct role in relation to the SEO process, as a significant funder and with policy responsibility for quality, it would be well placed to make a submission to the court once it publishes its notice in relation to the application for an SEO for the sector. In the interim, the last 3 budgets have increased investment in early years by some 87%. This has helped us to address affordability, access and quality, although I recognize that there is more to be done. This year's announcement of a 7% increase in ECCE capitation is intended to support the workforce. The $18 million in 2017 to support the non-contact time or the administrative burden associated with the scheme is also intended to support providers and their employees.
Deputy.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Well, Minister, as I'm sure you are aware when you're out and about in various constituencies, the bottom line is that childcare workers find themselves in pretty untenable positions in terms of the income versus expenditure versus the administrative costs and burdens as part of delivering the affordable childcare scheme. We recognise the immense contribution that childcare workers are making within Irish society and in caring for kids. But, Minister, we need to invest more heavily in the childcare sector. We need more investment for the childcare workers and for the parents who are under the immense strain. As you well know, that childcare can cost most families anywhere within almost short of €1,000 a month. It's a huge extra burden on parents. And as you well know, that with the affordable childcare scheme, we weren't in a position, or we're not in a position to deliver on that as we had hoped. The ICT seems to be a huge burden on the actual childcare workers themselves and those who administrate it.
Thank you, Deputy.
We have about 9,000 families who are actually going to miss out on that scheme as a result of the subsidies not being made. So I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Thank you very much, Deputy.
Okay, thank you. You know, in terms of your initial points there, Deputy, of course I agree with you. That's why, I have done, I think, a huge amount in terms of trying to identify with the limited resources, and yet, as I've said, I still got probably more, I think, than maybe others might have gotten in relation to this budget. But with the limited resources, to be strategic in the way that they're applied. And I'm also indicating that the investment into the early years sector in general has increased over the years. So, having said all of that, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying in terms of more investment is required. I understand that. But let me just say, in relation to the 2 main measures that I did put forward in terms of this year and focused on quality, hoping that it does get to the workers, in terms of the increase in ECCE capitation rates, if you have some case studies, if you have a small service of 11 children with a level 6 practitioner, it will see its income rise from $26,961 to $28,840 1,642. That's an increase of €1,881 into that service. The average service of 25 ECCE children with graduate room leaders will see its income rise from $71,250 to $76,237. That is an increase of $4,987. Those are just a couple of examples. I could give you other case studies. This is what we did. We did the scenario analysis to see how much more money could get into these different types of providers and services by increasing the capitation rate by 7%. So it was directly intended in order to support the providers and hopefully ultimately the childcare workers and professionals.
Okay, well, Minister, I appreciate where you're coming from there, but I still would harp on about the fact that we do need to do more to help the childcare providers. I'd have to thank Deputy Anne Rabbitte, who did come to Cavan Monaghan with me before the Dáil recess to actually meet with those who are at the coalface of it. And I mean, their experience would be one of hardship, in the sense of there's such high expectations of them, both from a department point of view, which there's never any harm in having high expectations, but in terms of being pulled almost from Billy to Jack, in the sense of the huge administrative burden that's in it now, the low wages that are involved in it, the low salary that's there for them, in terms of continuous professional development for those childcare workers, the expectation that they would be at a level 8 to get the minimum wage, and where the career opportunities are going to be for them in years to come. There's certainly no encouragement, I suppose, for young people coming through third level at the moment to go into that, guys, even though into that profession, even though we badly need them. And childcare is such a huge issue in terms of women being back at work and having that doorstep service on their doorstep.
May I say that those are many of the arguments that I brought forward to the Minister for Finance in order to persuade, negotiate to get the increases that I did. So I am not at all in disagreement with you. I am not. And I expect and hope that the sector understands that. And at the same time, that's why I said, you know, the measures that I did identify are trying to get to them. I gave you a couple case studies in terms of the increase in capitation. As you know, I've also the measure of ensuring 2 full years of entitlement to ECCE. How does that help? Well, when ECCE was originally extended from 38 weeks to 61 weeks, it gave ECCE providers the option of increasing their income by 60% if they had the space and capacity to expand. That's guaranteed state income paid at intervals by PUBL. But in terms of now my, moving it to one entry level and increasing and extending the time within the entitlement of all children for a full 2 years, that increased income and increased profit margin, this also goes into the providers. There is more money than going into the providers with that measure as well as being an issue that provides, hopefully, more affordable childcare for families.
Thank you.
48 in the name of Deputy Niamh Smyth, and I understand is grouped with 58 in the name of Deputy Anne Rabbitte. So what I'm going to do, introduce the question, allow the Minister to answer, and then the supplementary from each. Okay, Deputy Smyth.
Just to ask the Minister if your attention has been drawn to the shortages of ECCE places, particularly for the second free preschool year, and of course particularly in rural Ireland. As you know, my constituency of Cavan Monaghan is hugely important, and there's always that concern that the rural parts of the country are looked after as well as the more urban settings.
Minister, you have 2 minutes. Number 48.
Yes, 48. I'm so sorry. I just cannot find that. Since we skipped around there earlier, I apologize. Oh, excuse me a minute here. Yes, here we go. Apologies. Okay. Following the expansion of ECCE last year, 120,000 children participated in ECCE in the peak term, April 2017. The further expansion of ECCE in budget 2018 is expected to see 114,000 children attend for a full 2 program years. The fact that 120,000 have already been accommodated in April 2017 suggests that capacity should not be an issue. My department, with the support of the local city and county childcare committees and PUBL, actively monitors issues affecting childcare provision, including capacity. In addition, my department continues to work with the Department of Education and Skills and the Central Statistics Office to identify the number of children eligible for free preschool years. As it did before, my department will make information available in the coming weeks to each of the 30 county childcare committees on the number of children eligible for ECCE per electoral division. This will enable the CCCs, support providers and parents in the local area to ensure sufficient capacity exists. If any future capacity issues are identified, my department will consider any intervention necessary, such as, for example, the provision of capital funding. If the Deputy has any specific concerns with regard to a specific area, this area should be brought to the attention of my department or the local city-county childcare committee. Notwithstanding this, I'm keenly aware of the pressures on the sector with regard to maintaining and expanding capacity. My department provided €8.4 million for its 2017 early years capital funding program. That represents a doubling of the $4 million provided under the 2016 early years capital funding program, and this funding has been made available to early years providers under 3 strands, the largest of which went towards enabling early years services to provide additional childcare places.
For supplementary from Deputy Smyth.
Thank you very much. Well, Minister, that comes as welcome news, because my information and understanding would be, from speaking with childcare workers, is that there is a problem when it comes to capacity, that there is such a demand for it, which is a welcome thing, that a lot of the childcare workers don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to provide the capacity. So I would look forward to any announcements you might make in terms of any capital infrastructure that could be put in place for these childcare workers, that they can provide the places, the parents can access that free preschool year. It's welcome news, and I would thank you for your response here today.
Minister. Sorry, we'll take the 2 questions.
Oh, right.
Deputy Rabbit.
I suppose, Minister, I'm going to say very little different than what Deputy Smyth is after saying in relation to capacity. I suppose the capacity issues I might have drawn to your attention in the last few days was in relation to a Montbellew creche in my own constituency, and there is another creche down in Michael Moynihan's, where they are actually looking to expand. They're looking to see if there's going to be a capital programme coming forward to deal with the capacity issue that they do have, while they're able to cater very well for the first year. The second year and the extension of it is going to put them under pressure. They need to put on either the extra room or the protocabin, and while the money that was allocated last year was very, very welcome, I think there is a number of other creches that will be there since 2007 that are now looking to expand and are looking to see if there will be funding coming down the road to adhere to that.
And presumably, in relation to both the Deputy's questions, these would be creches or providers that have not applied before for capital expansion. Is that what you're is that what you're indicating?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. Certainly, in terms of the budget, there is money for capital. We will be developing, I suppose, a process whereby that is available in terms of the budget 2018. So I look forward to continuing to having these conversations with you.
Okay.